Hey, welcome back. And today we're gonna work on a Miller Motorsports from RC4WD Drive. I'm sure many of you have seen this truck out there. This one, yep, it's been run. Nope, it's not mine. So we're gonna tear into this thing and get it a little more motorsports oriented. So what we're going to put in it is we have a Slate 2850 and a new Mamba X, and we're going to wake this thing up a little bit because when I ran it, thanks to Glenn Shelley, who owns this truck, when I ran it, it was a little anemic power wise. It just didn't have the go factor that it looks like it should. So we're going to spice it up a little bit. If we can, we're going to put some Reefs servos in there and give it a little more punch in the departments that need it for when it gets more power. So it definitely needs to steer better. Twister servo, I've worked with them a million times in the past, and they just don't have high speed, so it needs woke up a little bit. So yeah, we're going to get comfortable with it and start tearing it apart. All right, all panels are off. You can start to see a little bit more of that high detail that JD Models put into this for RC4WD Drive. Looks like he already glued the air cleaner back on, which was one of their steps, and there's some other things that they want done. What I found was this side panel is held together with a sticker. So that's kind of unusual, but okay. You have a decal holding the body together. These screws I put back in because they're the only two long screws, and they go into the dash for holding up the panels on the side. So all the other ones are the same size screws. So I'm going to try and do this without taking the wheels off, because that is a project in and of itself. And if I was going to do that, I'd be putting other wheels and tires on it as well. But because they no match, they're not method. So oh well. So taking apart what I can on the top, I think there's a couple more. Yeah, there's a couple more panels down here on the side. Grab them off, and then we'll start to shuck this thing like an oyster and get to the electronics. So digging into this, that was unusual to have 4 Phillips head screws on this lower panel, and there is a little piece that makes it flat. I'm sure that'll get lost over time changing out that skid, if you can ever get those 4 Phillips screws out. Which here in the back, they're kind of in between, not like in the middle of the beefy plastic, which is okay, I guess. So drivetrain layout, it's a lay shaft from the transfer case up to the front output. Metal is directly off of the transfer case. And then you have all your cables for the 2-speed and the 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. So it doesn't look too awful bad. These 2 bolts would be for the carrier. So I think I got to get the skid off to be able to get access to the transmission motor assembly, and I'm hoping it all just comes out with it. But we'll see what happens when I start taking all the screws out. So wish me luck. Alright, it wasn't too terrible bad. Just the lower links, spread the chassis. It's got enough flex in the chassis to spread it. And that gives me a little bit of meat to my sauce here so I can see what all's going on. And I can get this transmission and transfer case properly pulled out of here. So let's get back at it. So, interesting little finds here. So the shift cables are odd at best. So this one is held on with a locking screw through it that pinches the cable. So it's removable from here. But this one has a captured barrel nut on the other side, or crimped end. So it has to be removed at the servo to get this thing all the way out. The other odd thing that I noticed was I like the rubber sleeving on these cables, but when you pull it back, it's just bare wire inside. So it's a way, I guess, to do it, but it doesn't, there's no insulation on those wires all the way into the motor. It's just bare wire. So interesting. It's going away anyway. So now I got to crack into the top of this and see if I can let that servo cable loose from the transfer case, and we'll keep moving on. Alright, so the screw's not coming out of this top bar, on this side at least. I was able to slide this out from underneath the bar to expose the 3 servos in here. Interesting way to do that. Makes it really hard to get into that box. But so these 2 rubber lines wouldn't come out, and now I know why, because they're just looped. And yeah, okay. So let's see, getting these cables, it would be this servo, which again, they're all just screw locked into the servo savers to pull. So let's see what size that is. Of course, it's just going to spin the barrel around, so that's not helpful. So, and it is a 1.5. So let's see if I can hold the, yep, there we go. Back that one out. This is going to be fun. I can already see it because of the limited space here. So that cable, I'll just cut these zip ties because I want to get into the servo wire mess anyway. So we'll just free all that up. And this is the one we're hunting. So we'll get that out of here. And of course it's zip tied way down there by the axle. There we go. So we got that one loose. And these are going to be a nightmare to adjust later. So thankfully I got this recorded so I can look at what the pass-through lengths are to try and get them back in the same. Feels like there's a little bit of Loctite on that screw. She is not wanting to let go. There she is. Alright. So I'll just go ahead and say good luck getting that back together. There we go. Overly complex for no reason. We'll put that screw in later, but at least we got the assembly out. And we'll continue on. Alright. So it looks like we got a bunch of screws holding this all together. My assumption is that these two screws, which are Phillips, and these two screws in the back, which are not Phillips, will let the motor cover come off, but it would still require all of these coming out for motor swap. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and see if I can take all of them out. Yeah. Not the greatest screw heads in the world, so this ought to be fun. Everything's at an angle. So good Lord. There's my planetary. Hey, fun knot. Well, that's going to take some reassembly talent. Let's see what else we got here. So we got the motor, looks like the 2 motor screws, pinion, and the transfer shaft. Grab a blue towel here. At least it has grease in it. I'll give them that. So it looks like the pinion is set. Teeth just below the plastic. That's a 2. Hammer tight. Hammer tight for sure. All right, so let's see about getting this. It's probably not the easiest way to capture a motor and a trans, but it is scale, so I'll give them that. Move some of these parts out the way. Oh! Give me my screw back. Oh, thank you. Alright, so we got those 2 off. Looks like there's one more down here. Yep, that gives us that. And then the motor will slide out. There she is. No cover, looks like even hole spacing. So what I do, there it is. So let's see, put a sensor wire on there, because it's kind of the point, is to be censored. There we go, sensor wire. We can get all this in here or not. So that's going to be an issue. So that slot is not going to work. And also the Castle motors have external screws, which wouldn't really be that big a deal. But that slot is going to be a big deal. Especially we have to get these clocked for mounting screws. So let's do this. Let's get the motor clocked. I'm really not liking that the motor screws thread into the plastic first before going into the motor can. It's not ideal. Let's see what we got to do to get this to line up. So it looks like the oil pan is the sacrificial lamb. So we will just remove the oil pan. At least it doesn't go into the motor, the scale motor. So losing the oil pan off of a scale motor that you can't really see much anyway in this truck is not a huge loss. But I mean, it's not a bad motor cover. It'd fit on a lot of other trucks. Probably fit in my, yeah, I got ideas there. So when this becomes an actual separate part, these will probably go like hotcakes. I'm fairly sure of that. But let's get you all off to the side. There's sensor wire. We got a decent amount of room. I don't know if you get a 2-in-1 in there though. That would be a lot. But that appears to be okay. So we got our motor in, got our sensor cable on. One thing I need to check is that sensor cable is not going to be long enough. So I'm going to have to locate a longer sensor cable, which I probably have around here. Go locate a longer sensor cable and we'll come back. All right, so got everything back in. That was a real bear, getting that shift cable back in. The easiest way to do it is to basically set the motor and transmission in its general space, feed the cable back through, and then put that screw in. Then put the cage in, these 4 screws, and then the link screws. And I still got to put in the external braces. The drive shafts are in phase. I made sure that I got them back in phase, even at the transfer case. So all that spins as it should. There's no binding. There's no weird noises. But I did notice the front drive shaft only really goes into phase one way. It's like an offset key. So I assume the back is the same way. I just got lucky when I put it together. But so that should wrap up the bottom of this. I'm going to put in the 6 screws and then flip it back over and start digging into the ESC. So got the Mamba X installed. Just put it behind the passenger seat. The old speed control is centered. There's a little bit more hidden if you're doing some scale photo stuff from the front side. Like, it's not all up in your face, but it's still enough to know it is there. Just put on the XT60 that was stock. Got the wire run back to the receiver box. Yeah, so it's all in there. Cabling, everything kind of runs up above this cage. gets tied in a bundle here. Just waiting to do the servo upgrade before I clean up all the wiring and terminate everything. But I was thinking with Mamba X, since I have the ability to do the rock racer mode, I think I may put that on the 2-speed. Just wire that harness in there so when you go into second gear, you actually enter into rock racer mode. And then when you go back into first gear, you'd be in the crawler mode. So that kind of makes sense to me. But we'll wire it up and we'll see how it works out. Just to get a little bit more racer control over this platform. So yeah, and next I'll move on to the servos. So customer's choice is a Operation 11 Charlie Reefs Raw500. This one's out of my stock, but he has another one new in the case, so we're just going to swap when all's said and done. But fantastic choice by all means. The much better than the Twister, that's for sure. Get this out of here. So yeah, so we'll be putting a raw in. Unfortunately, it will be upside down when the truck is right side up, but hey, you know, it is what it is. Can't have it all. And if we could, we would want more anyway. So there's your little fun fact for the day. So obviously this cable is not going to be long enough, so a servo extension is required, and I gotta look to see if I have a reef servo extension for this. Probably a 6-inch would do it. And okay, I'll get her swapped in. This is kind of a no-brainer. It's a servo swap. The only thing that I may see is if this rod can go on the backside of the servo horn, just because it's all out up in the front. And it looks like even at full extension, at full steer, I don't think that rod is going to actually hit the servo at all. And that may keep the steering rods a little more tucked away and in better shape for longer, because you can already start to see the rock rash on this one. So let's get this swapped in and we'll see what it looks like. All right, so got everything installed. I actually put the rock racer mode on channel 5, which is open, which is this dial. I'm sorry, that dial on the remote. So that's with it on, and that's with it off. So everything works as it should. That's 2-speed. And then throw it back into nice with drag brake. And you have the open diffs. And oh, I'm sorry. That was the rear wheel drive. Then trying to switch without looking here. So that's 4-wheel drive, open diffs. There's with the lockers engaged. 4-wheel drive. We'll go back. 2-wheel drive. So everything is working as it should. And it's a bit spicier, as you can see. So definitely liking the 2850 in here. And that is on a 3-cell LiPo as well. And then we got the Reefs horn all on there. No interference with the link, so I was able to run that link on the back side of the servo horn. So we got no issues. Everything is trimmed. So really the only thing left to do is clean up the wiring, add back the few hundred wire ties that were on here. I mean, that's about a quarter of them. There's just wire ties galore that were on this truck to keep all the cable management right. So I'll put all that stuff back on and then repanel it and take it out for a drive. So we'll see you then.